is here. Ms. Evans Battle, the attorney for the mother, is Janai Pope. I don't see Ms. Pope here. Ms. Wilcox, the case manager, is here. Ms. Henley Parks, defect supervisor, is here. If you're going to testify, Ms. Henley Parks, you need or participate, you need to turn your camera on, please. And Ms. Chapman, I think you were or are a foster parent.
The former foster parent. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's it. Too. I don't see Dad. I don't see Mom. I don't think Dad's ever been on time when he has come, but we're going to go ahead. Maybe if he's going to be here, maybe he'll.
I just, Judge, I did just speak with the mom. She was going to try and get on, is my understanding. She was recently in the hospital. She indicated that I think she spoke with Ms. Wilcox and that she was feeling ill today, but she was going to try and get on to the Zoom.
Ms. Rock just signed in and I'm letting her in.
So let me ask then, with regards to Ms. Battle having spoken with her client, the department is asking basically to keep things as a status quo and push out the aftercare order for an extended period of time. Is your client objecting to that?
This is last time I spoke with her, she was in the hospital, which was October 31st. And this is the only time that I spoke with her since then. And it was only for 2 minutes for her to tell me that information, and that she was going to have to try and, get onto the Zoom. So, I don't know that she's in a position to take care of the children right now. So, I can't, stay in her place because we didn't have that conversation.
So you've not talked to her since October 31st, is that right?
Correct.
So a month ago.
Yes.
Okay. So when you were saying, well, you had said she was going to try to get on, I kind of.
Well, no.
You had talked to her this morning.
She called this morning, a few minutes before okay. I was trying to get on. And she just, I only spoke with her briefly and we didn't have that conversation about, what her wants were in relationship to the hearing today. Other than let me strike that. She did ask that it be continued. I explained that more than likely because of the fact that she had just gotten out of the hospital. She did ask that we could continue the hearing. And I told her that more than likely, that court would probably hear something today.
While you were talking, Mr. Pope, I think he's finally signed in. I let him in 3 times.
Yeah, my sorry about that. My phone and connection is like.
But you got something on your head. We're in court, so if there's a hat, you need to take it off, please. All right, let me get. You signed in a little late, but not as late as you usually are. But you came in before I could swear everybody in, so you get included. Go ahead.
All right. Let me call Ms. Wilcox first, Your Honor. Ms. Wilcox, go ahead and state your name for the record, please. Employed with Henry County DFACS as foster care case manager. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, you'll recall the last time we were in court was on October 17th of 2023, when this court conducted an emergency review hearing based on the department's request for modification of the aftercare as to Ms. Melendez Pope and Mr. Pope. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So tell the court again, just briefly, about how the mother contacted you at the end of September asking about to go to Florida and what occurred from that point forward.
Yes, sir. So on September 23rd, I was contacted through anonymous call from Mrs. Pope. And she was asking, can she take Lyra and Yaris to Florida because her grandmother was ill. So that was September 23rd. On September 27th, early in the morning, I received a telephone call approximately about 1:23 a.m. and Mrs. Pope was very erratic, speaking fast, cursing, making allegations about Mr. Pope. She was informing that she would be bringing the kids back to the DFACS office. She kept calling, hanging up. The calls lasted all day long that day. She told me that she said she was at various places, but wouldn't give me a direct location where she was. She informed that she had Yaris. She was cursing. She was saying that she wanted her kids to be adopted. And one of the times that she hung up, I actually contacted Mr. Pope to see was everything okay with the kids. He had informed that Lyra was with him and that she did have diarrhea, and she had been calling and contacting him as well. On that day, I actually spoke with Mr. Pope, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, which is Mrs. Pope's mom and dad. I spoke with Mrs. Parham, who is the maternal aunt. She's the sister of Miss Pope. I spoke with my supervisor for CPS, who was on call, Miss White. I spoke with the 911 operator for Spalding County, Clayton County, Officer Bako with Gwinnett County. And then I also spoke with officers from Seminole County Sheriff and Orange County in Florida. These calls took place all day long. On 9/28, September 28th, I also spoke with Mr. Pope, Mrs. Pope, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. Basically that entire day too, because the calls never stopped from Mrs. Pope. Eventually she was found in Orlando, Florida on the highway. She had abandoned the vehicle that she had taken from her mother and father. And Yaris was taken to the hospital. However, Yaris was picked up by Florida Department of Children and Family Services. And then they met Mr. and Mrs. Robinson at the border, so Yaris could be brought back to Georgia.
Let the record show that Ms. Duzant and the mother both showed up late, and I just let them in the room as soon as I saw them in the waiting room. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Wilcox. You were saying that that the mother was found in Florida having abandoned the vehicle. I think that was on September 28th, or what was the date for
yes,
that?
Sir. September 28th.
Okay. And did you receive any information from Ms. Melendez-Pope on that date or thereafter with regards to her having been hospitalized?
After she was hospitalized for a few days, I have gotten telephone calls from her sporadically from different numbers. For a time being, she was on the highway. She was using people's telephone numbers. She had informed that she was in California at one point. She was in Lagos, Texas at one point. Every time we talked, she was either stating that she was on the road or stationed somewhere. She never gave me a clear address of where she was staying. Basically, she said that she was in the trucking business. She said she was in the hoteling business, and she had an office in LA. So it was a lot of different locations that she was at. And since this ordeal for the past 3 months, she has probably called me from about 4 to 5 different telephone numbers.
So let me go back. The question that I asked you was, though, that you reported that Yaris had been picked up at the hospital. Did you ever have a conversation with Ms. Melendez-Pope stating where you discussed her having been hospitalized in Orlando, Florida?
It was a brief conversation. She claimed that she was committed by Mr. Pope.
Okay. So Ms. Pope's report to you was that she had, in fact, been hospitalized in Florida, correct?
Yes.
And that was the result of Mr. Pope having committed her?
Yes.
Did you get any further information from her about that hospitalization in Florida?
No, sir.
Did you ask Ms. Pope during any of your conversations after the end of September through now to provide the department with HIPAA releases of information, or any similar documents for you to be able to obtain medical records as to Ms. Pope's admission into the hospital in Florida?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever sign or give you any of those documents in order for you to obtain those medical records?
No, sir.
You heard Ms. Bartles' statement about this prior to going on the record and beginning this hearing, that the mother had reported to her having been recently hospitalized either on October 31st or here more recently. What, if anything, do you know about that?
Yes, I talked to Mrs. Pope this morning. She did tell me that she was currently in the hospital at Northside. She said between Forsyth, it's either Forsyth or Gwinnett County Northside Medical. She said she was feeling ill.
Why? What did she report to you as to the reason she was in the hospital, if anything?
She was feeling ill. She didn't give me specifics on what was going on.
with regards to Yaris, she was then, you said Florida CPS took that child and transferred that child to the Robinson at the Georgia-Florida border. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell the court about what, if any, contact that you have had with Ms. Pope since we were last in court on the 17th of October.
So we haven't had that much contact. Recently, I did speak with her on November, I believe, 19th, whereas I know Mr. Pope had went to go see her. She was informing that he had came up there, but she also provided some pictures indicating that he was being arrested. She also indicated that she was a part of a cartel, that she wouldn't be returning to Georgia for a while, as she had she was over some hotels or managing some hotels. I asked her for an address. She didn't provide one. She did provide me her email address. She do have new email addresses. I asked her about the release of infos, as that's why I needed her email address to be able to send her the documentation. I asked her, let her know that I can't get any medical information about her until I get a release of info. She informed that she will be contacting Avita, which is the psychiatrist medication management service provider that she was using here in Georgia. And that she would get me that information, or she would also provide me a release of info so I can get information from them. She also provided me a photo of a medication. However, I did let her know that I did not see a date for that medication. It was for vomiting. We had talked about some of her hospitalizations, where she'd been, but no release of information was ever given. So therefore, the department could not obtain any medical information for her.
When we were last in court on the 17th of October, part of the court's order was that the mother was not to have any contact with either of the children until such time as she underwent a mental health evaluation to determine whether or not she posed a risk to the children. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Has the mother undergone such a mental health evaluation since the 17th of October?
No, sir. And we did talk about that from the hospitals that she had been admitted to. Had she taken any evaluations? However, she always referred back to she was going to come to Avita and complete those things.
All right, so she's not done a mental health evaluation. Has she? You're confusing me a little bit. Has she been hospitalized according to the information you've received from Ms. Pope on more than one occasion since
sir.
October 17th?
Yes, sir.
Where has she? Okay, you reported that as of right now, apparently, that she is somewhere on the north side, potentially hospitalized. Prior to that, where, if any, did Ms. Pope report being hospitalized, and for what?
Texas Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas, Texas. Excuse me.
And what was the reason she was hospitalized in Dallas, Texas? In Texas,
I believe for a psychiatric evaluation.
And is that what Ms. Pope reported to you?
She told me that she was feeling ill and that her husband had her committed.
Where did you get the information that she had been hospitalized for a psychiatric in Texas?
Mr. Pope.
Okay. To your knowledge, has Ms. Pope had any contacted or attempted to contact either of the children since we were last in court on October 17th?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. During the conversations that you have had with Ms. Pope since the 17th of October, have you had any concerns about the mother's mental state? You talked about her saying she was in a cartel. What did you understand that to mean?
She said that the Menendez cartel accepted her in.
Okay. And did she give you any further information about what she was doing for this alleged cartel?
No.
All right. Other than that, were there any other statements or things that you observed during your contact with Ms. Pope that caused you to have concerns about her current mental state?
Yeah, she informed that her husband, that the FBI was looking for her husband, that he was a rat, And by rat, it's like a slang term for informant. She made several allegations of him beating her at a hotel.
I missed that. She made allegations of who beating her?
Mr. Pope.
What else, if anything?
She spoke about she want things like she wanted her children to be adopted by the Chapmans. She spoke on allegations about her her father. She spoke on Mrs. Devont doing something with taxes, that Mr. Pope didn't really work, that Mr. Devont, I'm sorry, that Mrs. Devont and Mr. Pope smoked weed all day. There's been a lot of things that Mrs. Pope has mentioned in this time period.
When going back to the initial Florida visit, that Ms. Pope and Yaris took, did you testify, I believe, previously that Ms. Pope took the vehicle of Mr. and Ms. Robinson to travel down to Florida?
Yes.
And was that vehicle reported to have been damaged?
Yes. I was informed that the seats and the roof was sliced and that she had abandoned a vehicle on the road.
You know why the vehicle was abandoned?
No, sir.
Did Yaris report to anything as to why?
Out of gas. She reported that it ran out of gas in one of our conversations.
So Ms. Melendez Pope reported to you this morning that she's hospitalized somewhere on the north side. Did you know she was back in Georgia until that conversation with her today?
So we had a conversation that she was telling me on last week that she would be returning to Georgia. She was making her way down to Georgia. She said that she was currently in Florida and she would contact me when she got here.
Did she do that?
This morning.
Okay. And do you know where Ms. Pope is currently residing?
No.
This court previously had returned custody of both Yaris and Lyra to their respective parents. For Yaris, it was as to Ms. Melendez Pope, and for Lyra, it was as to both Mr. Pope and Ms. Pope. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Pope, just for purposes of reminding the court and all the parties, is not the biological father of Yaris. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the biological father of Yaris is currently unknown to the department. Is that also correct?
Yes, sir.
And is the department asking at this time that the aftercare order in this matter be extended until June of next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that as to both children, or is that just as to Yaris at this time?
For Yaris.
Okay. And is the department continuing to ask, as the court had previously ordered on October 17th, that the mother undergo a psychological evaluation and follow the recommendations of that evaluation?
Correct.
Is the department asking at this time that the mother be prohibited from taking or having any contact with the children until such time as she undergoes the mental health assessment and is found not to pose a risk or danger to the children?
Yes, sir.
And is the department also asking that the mother be prohibited from removing Yaris from the home or from any other location at this time?
Yes, sir.
With regards to the mother, are you also asking from the department that she refrain from any harassing phone calls, text messages, or emails to either yourself, Ms. Duzant, the Robinsons, or Mr. Pope?
Yes, sir.
And that the mother be required to sign any and all releases of information, HIPAA releases, or other documentation for the department to get, from her hospital in Florida, from Northside, from Texas, wherever it may be, that the department be able to obtain medical records for the mother's hospitalizations in those various facilities?
Yes, sir.
And just want to clarify too, you have not received any information from Ms. Melendez Pope that she is currently under the care of any mental health professionals. Is that right?
She refers to Avita, which is the psychiatrist medication management agency she was using when she was here in Georgia.
And have you been able to follow up with that provider to see if they're still, in fact, treating Ms. Melendez Pope in any way?
The last information treatment plan I received was back in September, the early part of September. I needed her to sign a release then, and she never provided me the signed release.
And then other than the photograph of a pill bottle, have you gotten any documentation from any provider from Ms. Melendez Pope showing that she has been prescribed and or is taking any prescribed mental health medications at this time?
No, sir.
You said you talked about the mother undergoing, you had some conversations with her about going a mental health assessment after October 17th. Can you specifically identify the dates on which you had that conversation with Ms. Melendez Pope about the court's order and her requirement to undergo such an evaluation?
I don't have all the dates written down. So far, I have November 21st. And then we spoke November 27th and we spoke November 21st, and then today.
And has the department been able to make a referral to Ms. Pope to undergo such a mental health evaluation to this point?
Not with the, she didn't have information to be able to provide.
All right. So what I'm going to ask, have you ever gotten an address or a location for the mother or anything like that where you could have a provider reach out to her to schedule such an appointment?
No, sir.
You've got in your court report, and this is not in the motion that I filed, was the family therapy ongoing between the Mr. Pope, Ms. Pope, and the children?
It was ongoing between Mr. Pope and Yaris.
Okay. Is that still ongoing?
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a information provided to you about Mr. Pope having been again arrested for alleged domestic violence involving Ms. Melendez Pope since the 17th of October? Did we talk about that last week?
So, yes, Ms. Pope had provided some photos of Mr. Pope in the lobby of a hotel with Dallas PD, and it appeared that he was being detained. Mr. Pope, when I asked Mr. Pope about it, he said that they did detain him as far as talking to him, but he wasn't arrested.
And where and when did this occur?
This was in November.
Okay. And where did that take place?
In Dallas, Texas.
And have you been able to verify in any way whether or not Mr. Pope was arrested or charged with anything as a result of this incident that allegedly occurred in Dallas, Texas between Mr. Pope and Ms. Pope?
No, sir.
Did Mr. Pope give you an explanation as to why he was in Dallas seeing the mother?
Yes, he told me he was going down to provide her identification and that he was getting some information as to her hospitalization.
Getting some information as to what?
Her hospitalization, as far as talking to the therapist or the
psychologist. What? I told you more than that.
Do not interrupt. Do not interrupt, Mr. Pope. You know better. Please continue.
And did Mr. Pope, so I guess I'm trying to figure out, is Mr. Pope still having continual contact with Ms. Melendez Pope?
Yes, through telephone, yes, sir.
Okay. And has he been aware of where she's been residing since the 17th of October?
Well, he said that he was helping her out, that she had been in the streets and stuff, so he wanted to make sure, that she ate, things like that. He was giving her money.
Say that again, that she was on the what?
That she was out, out and about in the streets, so he was helping her out, making sure she ate.
Okay.
And had, giving her a little bit of money or whatnot.
All right. So was Mr. Pope reporting that Ms. Pope was homeless?
His terms was she was in the streets.
Did you take that to mean that she was homeless, didn't have a place to
Yes, sir.
stay?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, no other questions for Ms. Wilcox.
Let me understand. You're asking to leave the protective order in place until June with those additional conditions about Ms. Pope only on Urice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, if we do that, then all those conditions you want to, mom's got to do the A, B, and C before she can have contact with the kids, won't apply to Lyra unless she's under. Both kids have to be under that protective order if you want those conditions to apply to both kids and these parents. So I don't see how we can do that.
Well, Your Honor, I discussed that with Ms. Wilcox.
This way, I'm not willing to do that.
Well, what my thinking, and I think the department's thinking is that since Mr. Pope has got temporary custody of Lyra, he can protect Lyra from the mother, just up and showing and taking that child out of school or whatever.
Well, at this point in time, I'm not ready to extend that trust.
Your Honor, I didn't have any other questions for Ms. Wilcox. If it had been Ms. Battle or Ms. Schrock.
I'm getting ready to open it to them. Ms. Schrock, did you have any questions?
No, that was my only question. Is I was just confused about asking for it only to cover Urice, so I have no questions.
Ms. Evans-Battle?
I would ask whether or not the department believes that Ms. Pope is able to see the children or speak to the children in a supervised setting.
So due to the past few months and just keeping the kids safe and the things that has transpired with mom and her aggression and not being in her faculties, when it comes to the department definitely has concerns about what will be discussed even in a supervised setting. And just to see if the girls would be willing to visit with her right now, because as you all know, Urice is currently going through therapy. And so we definitely want to make sure that mom has underwent her evaluations and stabilizing her medication prior to having access to the girls.
But if the mother is living in another state, visits would be virtual. I believe the CASA sometimes will be able to assist in the supervision, particularly in a virtual setting. Is that not a possible, because she wouldn't be physically with the children, she would just be having a conversation with them, and there would be someone else present in the room to monitor what is being said?
As of now, the department doesn't have a lot to go on if mom will be stable and even talking. Because of her erratic behavior in the past, she jumps from being, she jumps and can start becoming agitated. And so it's a safety concern right now. The department haven't had a lot of time with her in a mannerable, stabilized condition without her acting erratic. So there's still that concern.
Thank you.
Okay. You have any other witnesses, Mr. Skravanek?
Your Honor, I'm going to just be brief and call a couple of extra witnesses, but I just want to clarify some things that we did not have testimony at as the emergency hearing. So if you'll bear with me, I'll try to be brief with them. Ms. Robinson, if you'll unmute your microphone, please.
Yes.
Can I ask which of you individuals, you or Mr. Robinson, received the phone call from Urice when they were in Florida? Who got that call?
I did.
Okay. And Ms. Robinson, you are the biological mother of Ms. Melendez Pope, correct?
No.
And you are also the grandmother of Urice?
That's not correct. Let her.
I adopted Miss Janaj Pope when she was 3 months old.
Okay. So you're the adoptive mother.
Yes.
Okay. And you are the grandmother of Yaris Robinson, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Lyra and Lyra.
All right. So when I ask you, did you permit Ms. Melendez Pope to take your car and go with Yaris to Florida back in September of this year?
Well, she had been driving the car. I let them hold
That's
it.
not the question. Ms. Robinson, you got to answer the question. Did you let her take the car to Florida?
Yes, she took the car.
That's all we need to know. Thank you. Go ahead.
And when that's fine, Your Honor. And when Ms. Melendez Pope took the car to and basically took the car and went to Florida, was the car, to your knowledge, in good working order at that time?
Oh, yes. Yes, it was.
Okay. And did the car have any damage into the interior of the vehicle when you gave it to Ms. Melendez Pope?
No, it did not have. The only thing had some spots from some liquid in the ceiling.
Okay. At some point in time after the end of September, you got that car back. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had to go. My husband had to go and get it from Florida. Yes,
okay.
From the pound.
When you got the car back, was there damage to the interior of the vehicle or the exterior of the vehicle that was not there before Ms. Melendez Pope took the car?
Yes, there was damage to the car, the interior and the outside. Yes.
Would you tell the court what damage you observed to the car?
The seats were shredded. She used a box cutter. She shredded the seats, the ceiling, the inside passenger door handle, the panel, and in the armrest for the middle where the driver puts his arm. That part was slashed.
Okay. You said she used the box cutter. Who are you referring to?
Mrs. Pope.
Okay. And how do you know she used the box cutter to damage your vehicle?
Yaris told me that.
Yeah, she told us.
By whom?
Yaris told her.
Okay.
And Mrs. Melendez told me she, messed up my car.
Okay.
Mrs. Pope.
Now, during the time that Ms. Pope and Yaris were in Florida, did you at some point in time get a phone call from Yaris?
Yes.
And did Yaris report to you concerns about her mother, Ms. Melendez Pope?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
Well, she had me on FaceTime, and she turned the camera around to show me that her mother was on the side of the highway, and she was like, had her knees folded up. She was laying down, but her knees were bent, and she was rocking back and forth. And Yaris said, "I'm calling 911," and she hung up.
Okay. And during that FaceTime, did you hear or observe anything about whether or not Yaris was upset by this incident with her mother?
I would say Yaris was pretty strong. Whatever she was feeling, she just knew this was an emergency.
Okay. And she said she was going to call 911?
Yes, and she did that.
Okay. And during the time that again, I'm talking about the end of September of this year when Ms. Pope was in Florida with Yaris. Did you ever have a phone call either around that time or, sometime thereafter with Ms. Melendez Pope where she advised you that she had been hospitalized in Florida?
She never told me she was hospitalized. I just saw a picture of Yaris on the bed.
Stop lying. Stop that lying.
She was saying Yaris had her monthly or something. She thought she had a monthly, but I don't recall. All I know is when Yaris called the police, they took her to the hospital, and then I got a call from the officer the next day. She was in the hospital. She was in the hospital, heavily sedated, and Yaris was sleeping like at the foot of the bed there.
Did you at some point in time have to make arrangements with Florida Child Protective Services to pick up Yaris from Florida?
Yes.
Just briefly, how did that go about? Did you meet them at the border of Georgia-Florida border, or how did that work out?
Yes, I met them we met halfway, right at the border. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And were there any things that the child disclosed to you after you picked her up and you were driving back to the Atlanta area? Anything that Yurice told you about her time with her mother in Florida that caused you to have any concerns other than what you testified to up till now?
She really didn't talk much. She was like tired, but she just was saying they was on the highway. I forgot what she said. She put on.
Can I say, Ms. Robinson, you can't ask him. You just gotta tell me what you know.
Sometimes I forget certain things, but I don't recall her really talking that much. She seemed in good spirits to see us, and the lady that we met with, she was saying how nice Yarice was, and she had gave us something to eat, but she didn't really go into any details about what happened to me at that time.
I just want to note for the record, it appears that Ms. Melendez-Pope has dropped off this Zoom call.
Okay. Yarice did mention something about her mother pulled her hair because we went to the hospital. We took Yarice to the hospital. DFAX requested we take her to the hospital for a checkup. And that's when she did say that her mother hit her in the nose, tapped her in the nose and pulled her hair. But other than that, she didn't have any physical damages on her that could be seen by the doctor.
Okay.
And she was put in the middle of the highway before she showed me her mother. She was they was in the highway after they dropped the car off. They was in danger in the middle of the highway.
Did Yarice report to you as to what happened with the car?
She said the car ran out of gas when her mother got out the car, and then she just started slashing the car. And while she was driving it too, it was getting banged up. The car it had dents in it, and the fender was off. It was kind of banged up, the front and the back. Right.
And initially, I believe Ms. Wilcox reported that Ms. Melendez-Pope said she was going to take Yarice to visit a sick relative in Orlando, in the Florida, I should say. Did Yarice ever report to you as to whether or not they actually did go and visit with a family member down there during this time?
I know she doesn't have a grandmother down there. She has a sister down there, and her sister has 2 children, but her sister works out of town, so she wasn't there at her home.
All right. So my question though did Yarice report to you during the time that she was in Florida with Ms. Melendez-Pope as to whether or not they had gone to visit any family members down there?
No. Because Mrs. Pope's grandmother has passed away.
Since we were last in court on the 17th of October, have you had any contact with your daughter, Ms. Melendez-Pope?
Maybe once or twice. I don't really talk with her at all. I've sent her money, but I really don't talk with her like that because because of the way she talks. The cursing, the arguing, the accusations, the threats. So I don't really talk with her. She be texting me and saying all kind of stuff. I don't know. I just threats and whatnot. So I don't deal with her.
So I want to make sure I understood what you said. Are you saying that since we were last in court in the middle of October, that Ms. Pope has continued to either have phone contact or contact you via text messages, continuing to make allegations against you or Mr. Robinson? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I have no other questions for Ms. Robinson, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrock, you have any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Evans-Battle?
Just one, since we're on this car being abandoned, you said that Yarice actually called the police or called 911, someone for help while they were on the side of the road, correct?
Yes.
And it's your understanding that Yarice and Ms. Pope was taken from that location by some authority?
Yeah, the police came and the ambulance came, yes.
All right, then. So that is why the car was left on the side of the road.
It was left on the side of the road because it ran out of gas, and she was just being spiteful and being mean, and because she could have just left it without damaging it and banging it up.
that you understand that she was having a mental health episode.
Yes, I do understand that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other witnesses, Mr. Scrivonic?
Your Honor, let me just go with Mr. Pope real quick, and then that'll be my last witness, I think. And Mr. Pope, you are the biological father of Lyra Pope and the stepfather of Yaris Robinson. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You heard Ms. Wilcox's testimony from earlier today about the mother stating that you had gotten into an altercation with her in Dallas, Texas, and that you were being arrested. Did you, in fact, get arrested in Texas?
No, I've never got arrested. From all of her allegations of domestic violence.
Mr. Pope, I'm just asking.
All right. No, I did not get arrested.
Okay. And why were you in Texas to meet with Ms. Pope?
So I went to Texas. So I got a call from one of the psych wards that she was in from a doctor and one of the social workers. And the call basically was about Janaj and, like her mental health. And they felt like it was better if I would be able to come out there and get her basically to bring her back to Georgia so she could get, the help that she needs and the support, because her support system would be out here. So they felt like it was better if I was to come out there to get her. So that's what I tried to do. And just like always, when I try to help her, she does this police stuff and all this stuff. And I end up in this position like I'm always in. And I ask defects like Wilcox constantly, like, how are y'all going to help her? And she's always going, oh, it's not up to us. It's up to you. So, okay, if it's up to me, this is the position that she puts me in all the time when I'm trying to help her. She does these police things, and now in your eyes, it's seeming like I'm this bad guy when all I try to do is help this girl. And
okay. So when you went out to Texas, it was your intention to try to get Ms. Pope to come back with you to Georgia. Is that right?
Right. So okay. I was suggested to do two things.
That was a yes or no question. I'm trying to keep this focused. Okay, so bear with me.
Yes.
Did Ms. Pope agree to come back with you to Georgia?
She did, but then she disagreed. But then she did, but then she disagreed. Okay. So that's the type of things you go through with her. Like, she'll act like everything is cool to put you in a position to now basically destroy you or damage whatever you trying to do and make it look a certain way. So,
all right. Since we were in court on the 17th of October, a little over a month and a half ago at this point, has Ms. Melendez Pope had any contact with either of her children?
No.
You had talked about, and this is in previous hearings, about the mother being kind of all over the place when she was, going through her mental health phases. Since the 17th of October, during your contacts with Ms. Pope, are you still seeing that same kind of behaviors from Ms. Pope at this time?
Yes, it's all over the place, man. 1 minute she's fine, next minute she's in space, next minute, like, you heard she's a cartel member. Like, it's just all over the place.
All right. So since September, when she took Yaris down to Florida, did Ms. Pope tell you that she was hospitalized in either Florida or Texas or anywhere else since the end of September?
Yes, she's called me from every facility that she's been in, from Florida.
Okay, so let me ask you about that. Okay. Did Ms. Pope tell you that she had been hospitalized in Orlando, Florida?
Yes.
Okay. Did she tell you why?
The first reason was because of the highway stuff with Yaris, and they had sedated her. So from there, they had took her to a mental institution. So she went straight to a mental institution from that highway. She never really was in a hospital. And yeah. And then so and so forth. Okay, so
I guess I want to make sure I'm asking you this question clearly. Did Ms. Pope tell you she was hospitalized in Orlando, Florida for undergoing some kind of mental health treatment?
Yes.
Okay. Putting Florida aside now, Did Ms. Pope tell you she had been hospitalized in Texas somewhere for mental health treatment?
No, she didn't tell me. I had to find out myself.
Okay.
She was withholding that information until I found out. I had retraced the number she kept calling me from, and it turned out to be a mental health facility, and that's how I found out.
Where was that facility located? Do you know?
Well, she was all over Texas, so she was in Loretto, she was in San Antonio for a little second, she was in Dallas, and it was quite a few facilities. I know it was Glen Oaks was one that was in Dallas. I know Presbyterian was one that was in Dallas as well. Um, Other than that, it was just she'll get arrested and they'll take her to the hospital or take her to a mental health facility. She'll stay in there for a few days. They'll let her go.
Has Ms. Pope reported to you having been arrested in the last month and a half?
No, well, I know of one, and that was when I decided to go. When I got the call from her doctor at the time and a social worker at the facility that she was at, it was called Methodist mental health facility. When I got that call, that's when I learned that she had got uh basically an involuntary hold. Like they had arrested her and brung her there on an emergency mental detention hold.
Do you know why she's hospitalized allegedly on the north side at this time, or that she was recently hospitalized on the north side at this time of Atlanta?
No, I have no information about any of that yet.
Do you know how long Ms. Pope has been back in Georgia?
No, sir. She had like sent me a. You just never know with her. Like she say she in Georgia, but she'll be in Arizona somewhere or Arkansas. So you take it with a grain of salt whenever she tell you a location.
Good. No other questions for Mr. Pope, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrock,
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Evans Battle,
No, sir.
all right. Anything else, Mr. Scrivonic?
No, sir. I think that's going to be it for right now. Thank you.
Anybody else want to present anything?
Can I present something for the courts?
Go ahead.
So I just want to have this on record. From the beginning of this DFACS case, right? I've been doing nothing but the utmost on what you guys asked, from showing dependency, showing I could take care of my kids, showing y'all basically that I'm not the problem. You understand? But I can't do this no more. Y'all got to understand the mental health is taken upon me now at this point. I've been going through this for 3 years with you guys. I've never been an issue. From the start of this case, I was not even involved. It was just between my wife at the time and Yaris. You understand? And every time I'm helping this girl, I get basically penalized for helping her. She does this police stuff. She does all of this stuff. I've never been convicted of a crime of touching a female ever in my life. You understand? But I'm constantly getting patronized on here, chastised, all of the above. You understand? And I'm getting painted as this guy that I'm really not. I just want to take care of my kids and live my life, man. That is it. This is becoming too much. And I can't take it no more. Like, as a man, as a father, I can't take it no more, man. I just want to just take care of my kids. I got nothing to do with this, man. You understand? I asked y'all to help her. Y'all are the one enforcing her to get mental help, right? We all know she got mental issues, right? But then when I go to ask you guys, what are you guys doing to help her? What programs are y'all telling, like, referring to her? What are y'all guys doing in y'all end? And I always get the same thing. Oh, we can't do anything. It's up to you. You're her husband. It's up to you. Okay, so I take that and I go and try to help her every time. And then it's either I end up in jail or accusations, not even jail. I end up detained all the time. I never go to jail, but I got to deal with this police contact. I got to deal with all of this stress upon me consistently. You understand? Nobody's helping me. Nobody is like, it's like I'm not looking for no rewards, but it's like, man, come on. I'm doing everything y'all ask. I don't want to be a part of this no more. I really don't. I just want to take care of my kids and live my life and let them be happy, man. This is becoming too much mentally on me. I'm running 2 businesses and taking care of kids. I got to deal with the fact that I don't know what's going to happen with this girl. I got to deal with you guys. You understand? I just want to live my life. Like at this point, I've done everything you guys asked. I did the therapy. I did everything. Like at what else do I have to show you guys that I'm not the problem? I don't have a lawyer for a reason, because I'm not the problem. I don't have no reason to fight against you guys. I started out paying for a lawyer, thousands of dollars. I've been losing a lot of money, me and my family, and we just want to raise these kids and just, I don't want nothing to do with this anymore. I don't want to get calls from DFACS no more. I don't want to have my daughters thinking, oh, am I going to get taken? And is this going to happen? You understand? Y'all got to understand the mental stress that y'all doing upon me when I don't have nothing to do with this. You understand? I go in my bathroom and cry at times. Y'all don't understand. I don't really think y'all understand. And as a father, if it's any fathers in here, as the judge, that's Ravani. Like, this shit is too much at this point. I did nothing wrong. All I do is try to help this girl. And I just want to be done with this, man. Like, I really do. I can't take it no more, man. And that's all I got to say for the record of the court.
And Judge, I forgot, I did have a question for Miss, is it Duada? Please, the CASA. Sorry, I know I'm killing her name. In reference, I know she wasn't sworn in as a witness, but I did have a question about supervision.
She's not the CASA assigned to this case.
No, she's just observing the proceedings. She hasn't appointed CASAs on any case yet.
Okay, then but she could.
I don't mind if you ask for something.
She would not have knowledge about the services that they can provide in the case of needing supervised visits with family members.
You go ahead and ask her that, but I don't think they do that. But if they do, that'd be great.
I know they do it in another county, so that was why I was asking if they were.
She just got finished training, was in the process of training all the new ones, and she's been to training.
So I can tell you that we're not supposed to supervise visitations. We can observe visitations. So that's in our national curriculum, that's in our local curriculum, that's not allowed. So if someone is doing that, they're not supposed to be doing that.
Maybe they're CASA pluses. Maybe they're not CASAs.
All right, then. So they would just be observing the virtual visits between the parents.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We're allowed to observe and we're allowed to comment on our observations, but we're not allowed to just be in charge of the supervision of that visitation.
Okay. All right. So I misunderstand.
My concern about this mother, who's unfortunately very unstable,
and I'm sorry, she did send me a message saying the doctor called her in. That's why she left the video.
But my concern is if we had a virtual visit without knowing more about what's going on with her, she could do potentially irreparable damage to either one of these children by just saying something before anybody had a chance to cut her off. And I just, just like the idea of saying, I want these kids put up for adoption. I hope to God those kids haven't heard her say that. But Eurice may have heard all kinds of stuff down in Florida on that trip, if she was as unstable as it sounds like she was. So I'm not a fan, and you know this, all of you. I'm not a fan of cutting people off from their kids cold turkey, but I think this is a very unfortunate but a special case that we have to do things a little differently or significantly differently until we get. Now, she has had periods of, at least if everybody has been honest with us, there have been periods where she has been lucid and was functioning okay. But this is not right now. This is not one of those times. Anyway. Anything else? All right. Well, the court's going to accept most of the recommendations and find it necessary for the court and the department to remain involved under the protective order with the, at least at the interim, the prohibitions against mom having any contact with the children until she secures the mental health assessment. And the department's had an opportunity to consult with providers about her being able to visit. And I would like her to visit sooner than later once she gets situated. She's to sign releases, to cooperate. Both parents have to continue to cooperate. I appreciate your passion, Mr. Pope. I don't agree with everything you said, but that's part of the nature of court proceedings. But I will deny your request to. I took the sum of what you said is that you wanted defects out of your and your children's life, and I cannot do that at this time, and will not do that at this time. So, but I appreciate your sharing those that request and those thoughts with me. And but the protective order will continue to involve both children, not just the one that you requested. So I will deny that part of the department's request, and that that no contact with the mother goes to you, Mr. Pope. You're not to allow any contact. Should you utilize any of these nice family members who've helped out in the past for caretaking assistance while you work, that prohibition applies to them as well. Anybody that's your agent to look after these kids cannot put these children on the phone with mom, cannot put them on a screen, on a video FaceTime, Zoom, or anything else until the court has had an opportunity to review and the department's had an opportunity to review the status of her mental health so that we can make sure that it's positive contact, not something that could be further destructive. These kids have been in a lot of turmoil, and it's unfortunate. And we want to make sure we don't have any more of it if we can help it. All right, you can take an order based on my findings and the evidence, and we will set, I think we'll set a review sooner than 6 months. We'll set one in March in 90 days. And if something comes up about mom's visits, if y'all feel like you have a handle on that, then we can come back at any request to come back earlier. March 4th at 8:30 on Zoom. Thank y'all for your time.
March 4th at 8:30, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Because that's just an unusual time. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
All right. Y'all take care. Have a good holiday.